find out what's happening this week in the world of books this and every Monday. Stay tuned. Welcome to Biblio Happy Hour's Biblio News segment, where we will be sharing new releases for this week, other titles to look out for in future, bookstore events, and what's trending. Before I get started, I just wanted you to know that you can listen to our off-the-cuff discussions, get our monthly top-shelf new release recommendations, behind-the-scenes content, perks, and more over on our Patreon page. Patreon is a super easy way to support the show, plus it helps us to grow and embark on new and amazing projects for both the book and bookstore community. So check out the details over at patreon.com/bibliofinder. And without further ado, here's what's new for the week of Monday, December 30th. Before I get started with what's new this week, I just wanted to mention that this will be our last episode on Biblio Happy Hour for 2019. In 2020, we have a lot of new things planned. Our show will have a brand new format starting January 6, 2020, so be sure to tune in to our trailer on January 2nd so you can know what to expect. We will also have a brand new newsletter. Our Biblio Happy Hour newsletter and Biblio Finder Readers newsletter will be merging to create one amazing books plus lifestyle newsletter. The best part, you'll only receive one email per week. It lands in your inbox every Friday, and it will be an amazing 5-minute or less read. Click the link in our show details to learn more about the Biblio Lifestyle newsletter and to sign up. Now, I'll be mentioning some of the books that will be available on bookshelves during the week of Monday, December 30th. New this week from Graydon House is Husband Material by Emily Belden. In this novel, a young widow must face the grief she's always set aside when an unexpected delivery throws her life into disarray. Also from Graydon House, The Wives by Taryn Fisher. This novel has been described as a pulse-pounding, fast-paced suspense novel that will leave you breathless. A thriller you won't be able to put down. New in paperback from Harper Perennial, News of Our Loved Ones by Abigail DeWitt. New this week from Mira Books is Good Girls Lie, and we have the author J.T. Ellison here with us to share all the details. JT, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So I know this isn't your first rodeo. You've put many books out before, but Good Girls Lie will be available on bookshelves this week. How are you feeling? How excited are you?
I am thrilled because I actually haven't had a book out since September of last year. So that's a nice long period to have built up to having a new baby in the world. So I'm actually quite excited.
Oh, awesome. But tell our listeners about this book and what can readers expect?
Well, Good Girls Lie is set in a fictional town called Marchburg, Virginia. It's on top of a hill, and it houses the Good School, which is an elite all-girls boarding school. It's called a Silent Ivy. All the girls there can write their ticket to whatever school they want, and most go Ivy League. And we start with Ash Carlisle, who is from Oxford, England. She is orphaned, recently orphaned, and she comes to Good because it's pretty much her last recourse. She's lost her family. She doesn't have anything else. And so she is shipping off to America, and she lands there and everything's going well to start, but then people start to die. And things kind of go south for her from there.
Okay. So, how did you come up with the concept for this novel? How did you choose the title? And just give us some behind-the-scenes details into your process.
Sure. This book actually had multiple titles. It was one of those that a bunch of different titles could work for it. And so my editor is the one that actually picked the final title. And it fits very, very well because obviously Good Girls Lie, the good school, it's a great play on words. But I've always wanted to write a boarding school mystery. I went to an all-women's boarding college, and it was creepy, and the campus was beautiful and isolated, and stories and all these kinds of great traditions and everything you expect from a boarding school, except for we were college age instead of high school. So I've always wanted to take my experiences and put them into a book. I was watching International House Hunters, which is my one of my favorite weekend getaways, is watching that show. And they had gone to Surrey, England, so he could teach at a boarding school. And I was like, man, I would really like to write a boarding school novel. And I, wrote down a couple of ideas for it, and then I sat on it for months. And it wasn't until September of last year that I started actually thinking, maybe I'm going to write this next. Maybe this is my next book. And, it went from there. And I wrote it very, very quickly because I didn't have to stop and do a lot of research. I really tapped into my experiences there. And I, went and checked with some of my friends that went to school there and asked them, do you remember any of these stories and everything? And they did. And so I threw all of that in, and then I went to Chapel Hill, North Carolina for a book event, and a friend of mine took me on a tour of their campus, and it just made everything come together because I was missing a couple of elements. Mm-hmm. So it's Surrey, England, it's Randolph-Macon Women's College, and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, all thrown together in this crazy campus with these really hyper-intelligent, hyper-intellectual girls. And you can imagine just how easily things can go off the rails.
Absolutely. So who would you say is your favorite character in this novel?
I love Becca. Becca is the head girl. She is the queen bee. She is absolutely a roaring bitch until you get to know her. And then she's this incredibly lovable bitch.
Yeah.
She was a really fascinating character. She wasn't somebody that I had planned. And she plays a huge pivotal role in the book. And in kind of indoctrinating Ash into the school. She's the head of one of the big secret societies, and that's, their friendship and their frenemy-ship is really important to the story, and she just was so much fun. And I loved Ash because she's British, and I really dig a British accent, one that I've always wanted.
Oh.
So that was really fun, and we had just been in Oxford when I was thinking about the book, and that's why I put her in Oxford, because I just it just gave it an extra level,
Right. So if you didn't write, what would you do as a creative pursuit or as a job? What would you go out there and do in the world?
I love architecture and building things. So I would either be an architect or maybe a weather girl. Really, my husband calls me junior meteorologist because he asks me what the weather's going to be because I love meteorology. It's just one of those weird little things that turns my crank. But I really love architecture. They're actually building a neighborhood of these beautiful houses near me. And I was trying to figure something out yesterday on the story. And so I went and sat there and just watched them putting up a wall.
Wow.
Actually came up with a story idea. So, I think I'd be an architect. That was a very long-winded, I will be an architect if I could.
No, it's okay. So getting into reading, what was the last book you finished reading, and what is the book you're looking forward to reading?
I just finished Lisa Jewell's The Family Upstairs.
Ooh, what did you think about it?
Wow.
I loved it too.
Wow.
I loved it.
It was incredible, right?
I
shut it and I said out loud, brilliant. It's just brilliant. Well done book. Yeah, I love it. I love her. She's absolutely amazing. And what am I looking forward to? Oh, I've got The Galley of Codename Helene by Ariel Lawhon.
Oh, jealous.
And I'm taking it with me on my break because I've been saving it so I can just savor it and not be distracted. I just can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's coming out. I think it's coming out in April.
Right. Okay. And when you're not reading or writing, what are you doing?
I like to golf. I like yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I go on long walks. We travel a lot. That's one of the big bonuses to being an author is you get to travel on book tour and go to conferences and things.
Mm-hmm.
But we travel a lot on our own as well. And last year we went to Italy and England. So that was really a good banner year. We don't normally do 2 international trips a year.
Right.
But so those are big hobbies. I like
Absolutely.
wine. I like scotch.
Ooh,
We're just in Scotland, and I am a big single malt girl. That's one of my passions right now.
Right. So part of the podcast is all about indie bookstores and indie booksellers, and we're always looking for opportunities to shout them out. Share with us some of your favorite indie bookstores.
Well, I got to lead with my local, which is just one of the coolest stores in the country, Parnassus Books. It is amazing. Ann Patchett and Karen Hughes run it, and it just keeps growing. And it is so heartening to see an indie bookstore grow. Yep. It's just absolutely fabulous. Nashville is an incredible literary town. We have a lot of authors that want to come here, and Ann and Karen have really restarted our literary tradition, which is great. We had Davis Kidd here for many, many years. As a matter of fact, when my husband and I were dating, he took me to Nashville to show me, I think he was kind of seeing if he could envision me in his world. It was, towards the beginning before we had gotten engaged. And he took me to Davis Kidd. I was like, I'm going to marry this guy. He's going to take me to another city to take me to a bookstore? Yes.
Yes, we're here for that one.
I love Tattered Cover in Colorado. They're absolutely fantastic. I love Murder by the Book in Houston. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited because this tour that I'm getting ready to go on for Good Girls, I get to go to some bookstores that I've never been to, like Page 158 in Wake Forest.
Yes.
And booked for West Wind's bookstore in Massachusetts, and An Unlikely Story in Plainville, which I have heard so many great things about. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited. It's going to be I'm going to Solid State Books in DC too.
Yes.
They're relatively new. I'm excited to see them and have that event. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for you on tour. So getting back to Good Girls Lie, how do you want readers to feel at the end of reading this book? What are you hoping for?
Shock and awe. Shock and awe.
Shock and awe.
It's a last line book. Mm-hmm. It is. It's something that I absolutely love to do. Is really literally take the reader to the very last line of the book.
Yes.
And that is what this book is. I just can't talk about it at all without ruining everything.
I know.
But it is a last line book, so read the whole thing. Do not read the last page first.
Okay.
People that do that, the savages.
I know. JT, thank you so much for coming on the show, everyone. Good Girls Lie will be available in bookstores on Monday, December 30th.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely. I had fun too. Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where I will continue the conversation with author J.T. Ellison. She shares more about her new novel, Good Girls Lie, the part she enjoyed writing the most, what her work schedule is like when she's writing, where she gets most of her writing done, how her process has changed since publishing her first handful of books, and she also talks about projects she's currently working on right now. So head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder and tune in to the rest of our conversation. Oh, and while I have you here, don't forget to catch up with JT Ellison while she's on tour during the month of January. New from Poison Pen Press, Murder in Rat Alley by Mark de Castrique. In this novel, a murder from the past comes creeping into the present, as two private eyes open up a cold case to find a killer or risk becoming the next targets. Also new from Poison Pen Press, Come Homicide or High Water by Denise Swanson. Swanson brings readers back to the beloved small town of Scumble River, where school psychologist Skye Dennison Boyd is hoping to ease back into work after returning from maternity leave. Unfortunately, Scumble River experiences another murder and Skye is on the case. New this week from Dutton Books, Recipe for a Perfect Wife by Karma Brown. In this dual narrative novel, a modern-day woman finds inspiration in hidden notes left by her home's previous owner, a quintessential 1950s housewife. As she discovers remarkable parallels between this woman's life and her own, it causes her to question the foundation of her relationship with her husband and what it means to be a wife fighting for her place in a patriarchal society. New this week from Tor Books, Splintergrate by Deborah Teramis Christian. New this week from Picador, Breaking News, the Remaking of Journalism and Why It Matters Now by Alan Rossbridger. Also new from Picador, The British in India, A Social History of the Raj by David Gilmore. New this week from St. Martin's Griffin are 4 books in the Stephanie Patrick Thrillers by Mark Burnell. Book 1, The Rhythm Section. Book 2, Chameleon. Book 3, Gemini. And Book 4, The Third Woman. New this week from G.P. Putnam's Sons, Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. Such a Fun Age has been described as a page-turning and big-hearted story about race and privilege set around a young black babysitter, her well-intentioned employer, and a surprising connection that threatens to undo them both. New this week from Kensington Books is Matchmaking Can Be Murder, and we have the author Amanda Flower here with us to share all the details. Amanda, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, absolutely. We're super excited to have you. So I know you have authored so many books, but Matchmaking Can Be Murder is the first book in this brand new series for you, and it will be available on bookshelves this week. How excited are you? How are you feeling?
I'm very excited. I've written a lot of Amish mysteries, but this is the first time I've written a series from the perspective of an Amish person. So it was a little bit different for me, and she's also quite a bit older than me. She's 67, so it was kind of fun to write a character that I, couldn't relate to very much.
Right, absolutely. So tell our listeners about this new book, Matchmaking Can Be Murder, and what can readers expect?
So this new book is a series, actually is a spin-off of my Amish Candy Shop series, and that series is about a New York chocolatier that comes to Amish country to take over her family's candy shop. This new book is a spin-off, and in Toxic Toffee, which was the 4th book of the Candy Shop, we are introduced to Millie Fisher, who is the protagonist of this new series. And like I said, she's 67. She is an Amish widow and quilter, and she's also the village matchmaker. So she helps Amish young couples find each other. Her best friend is named Lois, and she is an English person or a non-Amish person who is a 4-time divorcee and likes to gamble. So they are polar opposites. So it's sort of a fun romp mystery with like a Lucy and Ethel element.
Okay. So I know you mentioned that this is a spin-off from your previous series, but what inspired you to start this brand new series? What inspired you?
So I was inspired by just the idea of that matchmaking is something that still happens in the Amish community, and just how they meet each other, because a lot of times their communities are very small. So in order to meet new people, they have to have someone that can bridge the gap from a different Amish district so that they can meet, another young man or another young woman or something like that. Because their communities are so small, they might be related to a lot of people in that community, so they definitely need to find someone new. And I just like the idea of having a little bit older sleuth. A lot of times, cozy mysteries, the protagonist, and in my case as well, tends to be in her 20s or 30s. So I just wanted to write something different that I think it would resonate with my readers a lot.
Right, absolutely. So who would you say is your favorite character in the novel?
I think my favorite character is definitely, I love Millie, of course, but it's Lois, her best friend, because she is just polar opposite of Millie. Millie's this prim Amish woman, always does the right thing. Lois, in order to help them get the answers for the murder, might bend the rules a little bit, and she's not afraid to, get her hands dirty, and also she has a lot of the fun one-liners in the book.
Okay. How long did it take to write Matchmaking Can Be Murder?
So, Matchmaking Can Be Murder took me about 6 weeks to write, and it's just for the sheer fact that I've written so much the past year. I'm actually finishing my 9th book that I've written 2019 right now, which is a lot. So I'm just on a pretty aggressive schedule. So for the sheer sake of being able to turn everything in on time, I wrote it in 6 weeks. Typically, it takes me about 3 months. That would be the ideal to write a book.
Okay, but on that note, what is your work schedule like when you're writing? And where do you get most of your writing done?
I get most of my writing done either at my home. Usually I'm writing on my bed with my cats. Also on my bed, I have 2 cats. And, or I go to my local coffee shop, just a little independent coffee shop when I need to get out of the house. So I write there quite a bit. My schedule is right now, just because of my aggressive deadline schedule, is I write 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. But that will certainly change in the future because I'm only under contract for 4 books next year, which I'm looking forward to.
Okay, awesome. And when you're not reading or writing, what are you doing?
If I'm not reading or writing, I usually am either running. I like to run, and also my fiance and I own a farm. So I would be out there working on the farm, and it's just a little hobby farm, so we don't produce crops or anything to sell or anything like that. It's just something that we do for fun, so just working outside.
Awesome, that sounds great. So on the podcast, we love indie bookstores and indie booksellers. Actually, half of the podcast is dedicated solely to them, and we're always looking for opportunities to shout them out. Tell us some of your favorite indie bookstores.
So my favorite indie bookstore is in Hudson, Ohio, which is about 20 minutes from where I live, and it's called The Learned Owl. And it's this great little shop that's in an old 19th century building, brick building, has lots of nooks and crannies where they store all the books. And Kate, who's the owner of the book, does an amazing job of supporting local authors and also getting, quite large authors too from all over the country into her store. And she's also always been super supportive of me in particular, and by having launch parties and different signings. I actually had a signing there a couple of weeks ago, so that's my favorite store for sure.
Absolutely. Getting back to Matchmaking Can Be Murder, how do you want readers to feel after reading this book? What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for readers, after I wrote the book, I kind of realized that it was really, of course, it was a mystery and everything like that, but it was mostly about forgiveness. I think Millie, part of the story is she's dealing with some family members that she feels like she wronged a long time ago. And I want, by the end of the book, that, she there's forgiveness both for herself and from other people. And I just want people to feel like that they could potentially have that in their own lives as well.
Awesome. Amanda, thank you so much for coming on the show. Everyone, Matchmaking Can Be Murder will be available in bookstores on Tuesday, December 31st.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where I will continue the conversation with author Amanda Flower. We talk more about her new book, Matchmaking Can Be Murder, how publishing her first handful of books changed her process of writing, what she would do for work or as a creative pursuit if she did not write, the last novel she finished reading and her favorite childhood book, and she also talks about the current book projects and future projects she's currently working on. So head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder and tune in to the rest of our conversation. New this week from Kensington Books, Shattered Justice by Suzanne Furlong. This is book 3 in a Bone Gap Traveler's novel. Also new from Kensington Books, Liar's Legacy by Taylor Stevens. This is book 2 in a Jack and Jill thriller. Also new from Kensington Books is Murder on Cape Cod, and we have the author Maddie Day here with us to share all the details. Maddie, welcome to Biblio Happy Hour.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you on the show. So, Murder on Cape Cod is the start of a new series for you, and it will be available on bookshelves this week. How excited are you?
Oh, I'm very excited. I really love writing this series, and in all confidence, I've written books 2 and 3 already, so it's ongoing, and I occasionally spend time in that area of Cape Cod, down in the southern part of Massachusetts, and I love writing about it.
Oh, absolutely. So tell us about your novel. Tell us about Murder on Cape Cod.
Well, it opens on a foggy evening. My protagonist is Mackenzie Almeida, Mac, and she owns a bicycle repair and rental shop in West Ham on Cape Cod, which is a fictional town. She belongs to she's a member in a book club that only reads cozy mysteries. And she's walking home from that evening's meeting and almost literally stumbles across a body. The book group gets involved in wanting to solve the murder. They say things like, oh, we're in our own cozy mystery. And Mac is kind of going, no, wait a minute, this is real life. Don't get so excited. The police detective, the state police detective is made, and that amateurs are trying to get involved. But Mac's half-brother, Derek, becomes a suspect, and so she has that very good reason to try to figure out what went on and clear Derek's name.
Okay, sounds really interesting there. Who would you say is your favorite character in this novel?
I would have to say a woman who is Mac's grandmother, her father's mother, who's this tiny woman who's always wearing her hot pink tracksuit. She's just this great family member. She's in her, I can't remember right now, late 70s probably. Mm-hmm. And she's a busybody, but with the town's welfare at heart. And she comes into Mac's bike shop and helps if she's short-handed, and she also goes to aqua aerobics and garden club and has a little telescope, a little spyglass, where she makes sure she tracks the goings-on in town. And she's just become this character that everybody loves. You know, she's Mac's grandmother herself, but that's my favorite character, other than Mac herself.
Right. Okay. How long did it take for you to write this novel?
So I now write at least three books a year under contract. Mm-hmm. I can write a first draft in under 2 months. And because I write 3 books a year, I only have 4 months. So it took me a total of 4 months. Okay. I mean, I write the first draft, I crank it out, I revise, polish, revise, and then I send it in.
Okay. What would you say is your favorite childhood book?
Oh, goodness, what a question. I can't pick out one.
It's okay.
I certainly read, I read series, I read all the Laura Ingalls Wilder books several times over. I read biographies of women.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole series of biographies of famous women, Jane Addams and Clara Barton, that I loved. And I read Nancy Drew, of course. My parents had a house full of books, like literally a house full of books. Any book on the bookshelf was fair game.
Oh.
So I was reading Poe and Sherlock Holmes at about the age of 9.
Wow.
And giving myself nightmares from those. But I think my parents figured that they were, I was reading.
Yes.
And that's always good. We had a whole, all 6 of us were readers.
Oh, that's wonderful. So part of our podcast is dedicated to indie bookstores and indie booksellers, and we just absolutely love them here on Biblio Happy Hour. Tell us some of your favorite indie bookstores.
Oh, I'd love to. The next town over, Newburyport, Massachusetts, has Jabberwocky Books. Sue Little is the owner, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful bookstore. She's very good to local authors. I've had numbers of launch parties there. Stocks my books. So that's a great bookstore. Right up the road in Exeter, Massachusetts, Exeter, New Hampshire is Water Street Books. There's a great bookstore in Manchester, Vermont, called Northshire Books, where I've been a number of times. The town I was born in California, there's Vroman's, Vromans, Vroman's bookstore. It's been there forever. I haven't yet landed a signing there, but I'm hoping to next year when I'm back in California for a visit.
Right.
And Powell's in Portland, Oregon is fabulous. So, I go to independent bookstores wherever I go.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate them. And in fact, I order any book I want to order. I don't order it from Amazon. I order it from Jabberwocky, and then I go pick them up in person.
Absolutely, absolutely. But getting back to Murder on Cape Cod, how do you want readers to feel after reading this book? What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping that they were able to be taken out of their life in this world. I hope that they taste the salt air and feel the atmosphere of a coastal tourist beachy town in Massachusetts, and that they feel satisfied that justice was restored to the community by the end. I don't write noir. I don't write books that make you feel worse when you're done reading them. And so I hope that I can provide that experience. I want them to feel good about the story and the people, and I want them to look forward to coming back and visiting again and hanging out with Mac and her African gray parrot Belle and the community in West Ham.
Absolutely. Maddie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Murder on Cape Cod will be available in bookstores on Tuesday, December 31st.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tune in to our off-the-cuff discussion over on our Patreon page, where I will continue the conversation with author Maddie Day. She shares more about her new novel, Murder on Cape Cod, her concept and inspiration for this novel, where she gets most of her writing done, some behind-the-scenes details on her process, how her process has changed since publishing her first handful of books, and she also shares some other projects she's currently working on. So head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder and tune in to the rest of our conversation. Also, you can catch up with Maddie and 5 other New England authors over at their group blog, wickedauthors.com. The Wickeds are 6 best-selling authors who write traditional, cozy, and historical mystery novels. In their group blog, they have conversations about books, all the things they love, the writing life, plus more. So catch Maddie and the other Wicked authors over at wickedauthors.com. New this week from Seal Press, The Guilty Feminist. You Don't Have to Be Perfect to Overthrow the Patriarchy, by Deborah Francis White. This book is a witty take on feminism for every woman who wants equality, but sometimes wants a day off from fighting for it. Alrighty everyone, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and I would like to extend special thanks to JT Ellison, Amanda Flower, and Maddie Day for coming on the show. A list of all the books mentioned in the show will be available over at bibliohappyhour.com. Don't forget to follow Biblio Happy Hour on social media and sign up for our newsletters. To shop all the books I've mentioned in the show and to find a bookstore near you or when you're traveling, visit bibliofinder.com. To listen to our off-the-cuff discussions, get our monthly top shelf new release recommendations, behind-the-scenes content, perks, and more, head on over to patreon.com/bibliofinder. And wherever you're listening, please don't forget to share, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Alrighty everyone, that's it, and I look forward to talking to you in next week's show.